Welcome back, week 6 of our How to ISO series. This week we're going to look at putting together a communication and consultation plan to support implementation of our management system within our business. We'll look at why it's important to do this. We'll look at who may need to be involved. We'll have a look at how you can go about it and some examples. Let's start with the why. Okay, number one, particularly if we're implementing a safety management system across the state or territory we're based in Australia, yes, there can be regulatory requirements, particularly around consulting, around identification of our hazards and risks and how we're going to mitigate those hazards and risks in our workplace. Now, I'm not going to cover that aspect of it today in too much detail. Michael Terry, the Mango partner from Queensland, has just done an excellent job of that, and you can follow the link there if you want to see that in more detail. Yes, number two, also the different standards have requirements around particular communication across virtually all of the standards, internal and external communication, as well as the safety standard has a focus on consultation. So going further than communication, which might be me telling you how the safety practices are going to work in the workplace, me being the safety manager. Consultation is obviously inferring that it's a two-way exchange of ideas and views with the workforce there. Now, ISO 45001, the Safety Management System Standard, if you look at that, it also it has a very strong focus on not only consultation but participation, and they define what that means. I won't cover it again in too much detail here, but that is really indicating we need involvement of the workforce in design, development, implementation, maintenance of different parts of our safety management system. If that's something you're trying to implement, we really recommend spending time getting your head around what's required there and making sure you understand that and plan for that. And hopefully the techniques we'll look at today will help you plan for that. We are really having a look at this also today from perspective number 3 there. It's also very important to communicate and consult effectively to support effective implementation of your management system. Let's just dig onto that aspect of it a touch more detail. Yes, through our communication and consultation efforts, we can improve awareness, understanding of the management system, what we're trying to do, what our policy commitments are, our objectives, what we're trying to improve, what we need to manage, how we need to report things, all aspects of our management system, if you like. If people are not aware of the system, how it works, and what you're trying to manage, and what the different processes, how to report something, for example, then obviously your system will be less effective. We really, again, one of those things that shows up through our experience, you may not see if you're brand new to management systems until 3 or 5 years down the track. Early, regular, and quite dedicated consultation really pays off down the track in terms of that, the workforce having broader awareness of the system and also what they're expected to do under the system, which is really important. Point number 2 there, yes, views of stakeholders. Let's start with the internal stakeholders. Would be really important for a range of reasons, but a key one is sometimes implementing a management system, let's say a food safety management system or a quality management system, if that's going to change some of our operational practices, there can be resistance to change. Consultation tools and mechanisms, i.e. that two-way exchange of ideas and as is indicated by consultation, can help, I'm generalising a little bit, but can help minimise that resistance to change. If people feel they've been consulted, they know the change is going to happen, they understand why it's happening, they've had some input into that, they're generally more accepting of the change. Number 3 there, yes, it's really important, obviously, to communicate and consult so that our staff, our workforce and contractors are aware of hazards in the workplace, but key risks from and how we are expected to manage those from the perspective of the management system you're trying to manage. So if your key risks from a food safety, information security, environment, quality, safety perspective, whatever standard you're trying to implement, yes, you can use communication and consultation to improve awareness of risks and how they need to be managed. One of the worked examples you'll see later takes you through a technique to do just that. So let's move on to who needs to be involved. There's a list of some internal stakeholders there. If you think across the workforce, yes, it's good to think about those different groups and what we might need to communicate and consult with them about and how we might go about that. As well as you can see some external bodies there. If we think about external stakeholders, I'll start with customers. If we're developing a quality system or an information security management system, well, we could design that to meet what we see as important and our own business objectives. But what do the customers, what would they expect from your management system in terms of managing their information, for example? If you identify that up front through communication and consultation, you can then design a system at the level that would meet that customer expectation. You don't want to develop a system that doesn't have, is below that expectation. Same for regulators would have a perspective. Let's jump to an environmental system or a food safety management system. Regulators have an expectation. There's no point spending a huge amount of time and effort and we get 2 or 3 years down the track and we find our system is not allowing us to meet the basic kind of food safety regulatory requirements, for example. We have to design a system that goes over and above that. As some examples, emergency services is another one. I won't go through all of these right now, but yes, are they aware of what our risks are and who our emergency wardens are? Things like that can help facilitate a much more effective and efficient response. There can be others. This is just highlighting some of them. Do a brainstorm as a team and get some different perspectives. There could be other stakeholders there as well. So how can we go about it? I've started to touch on this and we'll see it reinforced in the examples shortly. It's really about identifying, who do we need to communicate or consult with? A really important one is, well, what's the objective? Why are we consulting with this group? Another way to reframe that is, what's the outcome? What do we want to achieve by communicating and consulting with that group? It is actually worth documenting that. As an example, a safety system, we want to consult with workers because they have excellent knowledge about what the hazards are and how they can be best managed. And if we can bring that back into our safety system, we will have a more robust, effective safety system, would be one example. We need to decide what needs to be communicated, what different messages need to be communicated or discussed or consulted with different stakeholders. What method are we going to use, whether it be staff meeting, management meeting, board report, whatever it is, what method are we going to use for our communication and consultation? Maybe a toolbox talk with the workforce. The other thing that we like to include and we encourage our customers to include is, even before you do the communication and consultation, when you are planning your communication and consultation, think about what could be a measure that would indicate whether that consultation and communication has been effective. Have you achieved the outcome you aim to set out? Really important, because we do see, again, one of those things that shows up after 3 to 5 years is communication and consultation programs that are just meandering along with no clear objective. What do you want to achieve? What would indicate whether you've achieved that is what we're suggesting there. Again, another little tip too, I do sometimes see organisations where, make up the example on the safety and environment manager implementing a system. If you happen to be in a large organisation where you have some people with communication expertise, go and consult them about your communication and consultation plan. Get their input, draw on their expertise if that is there. Okay, would be a fantastic resource. Now let's have a look. We can have a look at some worked examples. All of these are downloadable. They're all in one Excel file. Actually, you can download from our resources page on our website. I'll give you the link to that in a moment. You don't need to put in your email address, anything like that. You can just download that and use that. The first example, it's got 3 tabs in it. The first example is really saying, oops, sorry, I've just clicked my button, which I shouldn't have. First example is really saying, you've got your target groups on the left, internally. In this case, who are we going to consult with? This example is quite a high level one. This is just getting different groups within our business, the different internal stakeholders, improving their understanding of what we're trying to do by implementing a management system. What are the drivers and goals behind that? What might be their role within within the management system, but particularly it's something we've advocated through all of our how-to series is, yes, we can use this communication and consultation to manage upwards a little bit, explaining to top management what it's about, resources required, putting forward a business case, therefore getting their endorsement or authorisation to proceed. If you're getting that commitment early, really, really important, rather than senior management not understanding the scope of work involved and just thinking this is something you can do without any kind of dedicated time and effort. Okay. So yes, you can use communication and consultation that way. One of the other examples you'll see in there, I've broken it down over a couple of different parts there. This is when if you download that spreadsheet, it says communication consultation plan in brackets simple. This is one where, a particular group, that's just highlighting some of what we discussed before under how. So what's our outcome or objective we're aiming for? What needs to be communicated? What method are we going to use? And how would we know whether that's been effective? In the example or the template you can download, there's more examples of that. That's a kind of a simple approach to support implementation of the management system and the communication and consultation planning that goes with that can be really quite effective. I've harbored on that last box there, effectiveness, a little bit, because if we come back and review implementation of our management system at different points during that project, then we have an indicator to help work out whether, okay, was our consultation and communication effective, or do we think we really need to do more because that indicator of effectiveness hasn't really been achieved. Let's look at our last example. That's example 1. I'll go to example 3 rather. This is one I mentioned earlier where, particularly from whether it's food safety, environment, information security, quality, whatever it might be, and you'll see some examples of all of those in the worked example, this is an important strategy or a good strategy to help road test ourselves or evaluate ourselves. Have we actually communicated and consulted specifically about some of our key risk areas, and has that been effective? So as an example, I'm going to use the first two from each category there. Yes, in our businesses, after doing our assessment of hazards and risks, we know that working at heights or fall from heights is a significant risk in our business or a significant hazard. Then we can start to say, well, what would be our objectives for communicating and consulting about that, our methods, etc., and what would be indicators that's been effective. Same for an environmental one there, for if pollution risk is a significant environmental aspect in your business, then let's make sure we plan out specifically how we're going to communicate and consult around that. And you can use the same template, the same headings there, whether it's a food safety or information security risk or a quality risk, etc. If a key quality risk could be not meeting the customer's specification, well, let's make sure we've communicated and consulted around that risk effectively. Very last slide today. Yep, that's just highlighting on our resources page at irmsystems.com.au. There's a whole lot of resources to support this how-to series. Every week, the topic we're covering, there will generally be, and certainly if we mention it, a template you can download and use in your business to support implementation of your management system. They are free to download. We don't ask for your email or any of those details, so get in there. Gives you a good head start, and they are tools that we actually use with our customers, so we know they work. Again, I haven't put our website there, but irmsystems.com.au if you want to download that. We hope you're watching. We'll be back next week. We're going to look with another in our how-to series.